To fast-track his promotion, my CEO girlfriend's old flame, Ethan Miller, deliberately stole the design proposal I'd spent 3 months working late nights on. Furious, I wanted to get it back, but my girlfriend, Victoria Davis, privately urged me to let the new guy have this one. Later, when the design was embroiled in a plagiarism scandal, Victoria was the first to testify against me, pinning the blame squarely on my head and demanding I cover millions in damages. Your salary is so high, she argued, paying this amount is nothing to you. But Ethan just started and comes from a poor background. This sum could ruin him. Besides, she added with twisted logic, the design was originally yours, so shouldn't you be the one to pay? Hearing Victoria's blatant double standard and biased defense, I couldn't help but laugh bitterly, but I still silently took out my bank card. Victoria thought I was agreeing to pay, and her face lit up instantly. She even promised we'd get married after this was settled. That made me laugh. I raised my hand and passed the card to the lawyer beside me. Sorry, this is the retainer for my lawyer. I'm suing you. 1. The moment the words left my mouth, Victoria's face fell. She slapped me hard across the face. Her freshly done nails scratched my skin, stinging sharply. Gasps echoed around us. Victoria herself froze for a moment, her eyes filled with a complex emotion, before letting out a cold snort. Even if you sue, you won't win. The design is yours, and I have 100 ways to make sure you lose. My colleagues looked at me with pity. After a couple of seconds of silence, those on better terms with me started whispering advice, urging me to back down before Victoria. It's better to let it go. Ms. Davis dotes on Ethan Miller. Fighting her will only hurt you more. Just apologize to Ms. Davis. Maybe she'll let you off with a smaller payment. I glanced at Victoria, who stood nearby looking smug, and gave a self-deprecating laugh. It was true. Everyone in the company knew how much Victoria spoiled Ethan Miller. Initially, Ethan didn't even qualify for an interview, but Victoria overruled everyone and parachuted him into the design supervisor position. Over the years, Ethan's carelessness had caused several projects to fail, costing the company millions in compensation. Not only did Victoria refrain from scolding him, but she shifted the blame onto me. To console him, she even wanted to promote him to a position equal to mine, bypassing standard procedure. The office was filled with complaints, and eventually employees jointly protested. Unable to ignore the backlash, Victoria finally agreed to follow company protocol, requiring Ethan to achieve results as part of an evaluation. But the evaluation project was one I had secured through relentless schmoozing, even to the point of stomach bleeding and humbling myself. I tried to argue with Victoria, but she wouldn't budge. Worse, she tacitly allowed Ethan to steal the design proposal I was close to finishing after 3 months of late nights. However, the design wasn't finalized. Ethan plagiarized the most eye-catching elements from another company's work in his final version, triggering a plagiarism lawsuit. And now, without even verifying the facts, Victoria was throwing the blame onto me. I pressed my lips together tightly. This time, I wasn't going to back down. Seeing this, Ethan Miller, who had been enjoying the spectacle with malicious glee, put on a hurt expression. Vicky, don't blame Buddy Sincere. This is my fault too. When Buddy Sincere said he'd give me the design, I should have changed that part. But I honestly never thought someone as brilliant as Buddy Sincere would make such a mistake. With just a few words, he shifted all the blame onto me. Some colleagues who didn't know the truth believed him, pointing at me and whispering, suspecting I had pretended to be helpful only to frame Ethan deliberately. Victoria merely glanced around, saying nothing, letting the suspicion fester. One colleague couldn't stand it and spoke up for me. Don't you guys know Sincere's skill level? Why would he need to plagiarize anyone? Besides, elements in that style aren't even Sincere's signature. That's true. Ethan used a similar style before. Could it really have been Ethan? Hearing someone suspect Ethan, Victoria's expression instantly turned icy. Are you all that idle? Is your work finished? Since you're all so underworked, I'll increase everyone's task load soon. The onlookers immediately shut up and dispersed. Seeing this, I found it laughable. Over the years, she had made me take the fall for Ethan time and time again, throwing black pots my way. People who didn't know better believed the rumors circulating about me in the company, but she turned a deaf ear. Now, someone merely questioned Ethan, and she flew into a rage to defend her favorite. So, she did know how to protect someone, it just wasn't me. Seeing my continued silence, unlike my usual breakdowns, Victoria softened her tone slightly, speaking earnestly. "Sincere, I'm not trying to make things difficult for you. I can cover this compensation, but you need to understand why I'm so angry. Ethan comes from a difficult background and faces unfair ostracism at work. You, a grown man and my boyfriend, should be thinking about how to resolve conflicts and help your colleagues. But instead you lash out in anger and falsely accuse others. That just makes you seem petty and intolerant to me." I smiled faintly. It seemed she didn't know Ethan was the one who plagiarized. But I understood that even if she did know, her stance wouldn't change. "Later, you will make a public self-criticism, apologize to Ethan, admit your mistake. For this compensation, the company will cover half." "No need," I interrupted her calmly. "I did nothing wrong in this matter. I will not apologize. You—" Victoria frowned deeply and kicked over the desk in front of me. "Sincere, are you determined to remain unrepentant?" Before I could respond, Ethan quickly stepped forward, patting Victoria's back comfortingly. "Vicky, don't be angry. It's bad for your health. If Buddy Sincere isn't willing, let's not force him. Don't worry about this. It's not serious. I'll modify the design and then treat the other boss to dinner. It can be resolved." His words instantly deflated most of Victoria's anger. She gave Ethan an appreciative look, then turned her cold gaze back to me. "Can't you learn a thing or two from Ethan? He actively tries to solve problems, unlike you, who just runs away when issues arise. Honestly, the older you get, the less sensible you become." Victoria shot me a disdainful glance. But she seemed to forget that Ethan's problem-solving was just lip service. When push came to shove, he'd inevitably dump the difficult tasks on me. He had never actually solved a problem from start to finish. "Don't think this is over just because you're not saying anything. Let me tell you, this isn't finished. After this is handled, I'll deal with you with that." Victoria turned and strode away on her high heels. Ethan hurried after her, but just before leaving, he deliberately turned back, grinned mockingly, and gave me the middle finger. I knew he was provoking me, but this time, I didn't feel anger or lose control. Instead, I calmly took out my phone and dialed my lawyer. "Hello, I want to file a lawsuit." 2. After a brief discussion of the situation, the lawyer and I scheduled a meeting. Hanging up the phone, I felt a wave of melancholy. I never thought Victoria and I would end up like this. We met in university. My family wasn't well off, and I came from a single-parent home. My dad had sold possessions and borrowed money just to scrape together enough for my tuition. But on registration day, I lost the tuition money. Just when I felt utterly devastated, Victoria supposedly found it and helped me enroll smoothly. Later, I accidentally found out the money was never really found. Victoria, seeing how distraught I was, had paid my tuition out of her own pocket. She didn't look down on my background, dated me, and stayed with me through 4 years of university. After graduation, she said she wanted to start her own business. I unhesitatingly turned down a high-paying job offer I had received and pooled all my money with hers to come here. We relied on each other, celebrated successful projects, and cheered as our bank account balance grew. Those times were tough, but having each other felt like having the world. I remember once after a business dinner, someone deliberately smashed a bottle over my head. I was rushed to the hospital covered in blood. When Victoria saw me, she trembled with rage, wanting revenge. But the other party was wealthy and powerful. We couldn't afford to cross them. Angry and heartbroken, she ended up holding me in the hospital room, sobbing and vowing to make the company huge so I would never suffer such indignities again. Later, the company did grow beyond our wildest dreams. No outsider dared to bully me anymore. But now, the one causing me pain and breakdown was her. Ever since Ethan returned from abroad, she publicly berated me in the office for his sake and handed over projects I had worked hard to secure multiple times. Each time I convinced myself to wait a little longer, reminding myself of her past kindness and our relationship. That waiting lasted 3 years, until I understood that Ethan was her old flame, the one that got away. I finally lost all hope in her. After compiling the design drafts and the surveillance footage of Ethan stealing my work and sending them to the lawyer, I saw Victoria post on social media shortly after. Feeling appreciated by my subordinate makes all the exhaustion worthwhile. The accompanying photo showed Ethan attentively opening a yogurt drink for her. The background was a dinner table, and a small full glass of white wine sat in front of her. Presumably they were dealing with the plagiarism issue. In the comments, people who didn't know the situation praised Ethan for being thoughtful and urged Victoria to get together with him. As the company grew, Victoria remained reluctant to marry and never proactively clarified our relationship publicly. She even started taking Ethan to business functions. So many of her partners didn't know we were a couple, but they all knew she and Ethan had a special connection. Victoria replied to the comments one by one. No clarification, no explanation, ambiguous as always. Before, I probably would have gotten jealous, called her angrily to argue, only to be accused of being controlling, followed by the silent treatment, after which I'd have to find ways to appease her. Thinking about it now, it seemed quite pointless. Besides, I knew she posted it deliberately for me to see. I ignored it and continued gathering evidence for the court case. About half an hour later, Victoria called me directly. "Where are you?" she asked tentatively. "Home. You didn't see my social media post?" Her voice held surprise. "I saw it." "What's up?" Victoria was probably taken aback by my coldness and was momentarily speechless. "I'm out entertaining clients, busy dealing with your plagiarism mess, practically drinking myself to death out here, while you're cozy at home." She sneered. "Get over here right now. I want to see you within 10 minutes. She hung up immediately. But just before she did, I heard Ethan's voice. "Vicky, did Sincere say when he'll arrive?" "You really can't drink anymore." That made me laugh. So, she wanted me to take over the drinking duties. Ethan was allergic to alcohol and couldn't touch a drop. When she couldn't drink anymore, she expected me to step in. If she drank herself to death, she brought it on herself. I couldn't be bothered and turned off my phone. By the time I had gathered most of the evidence, I glanced at the clock. It was already past midnight. I expected Victoria to threaten me with staying out all night to force me to submit. But just then, I heard a noise at the door. Victoria stumbled in, unsteady on her feet, barely able to stand. "3. What's wrong with you today? I told you to come find me, why didn't you? And your phone was off the whole time?" She slurred her words, standing in the doorway, holding out her hand, expecting me to help her. I snorted derisively and looked away. "Busy. No time. What could you possibly be busy with? Is anything more important than my matters?" Victoria scoffed. "Yes, actually, the matter of suing her." But I resisted the urge to tell her. Seeing I still made no move to help her, she frowned, finally leaning against the wall and stumbling onto the sofa. "Sincere, you've become so petty. You weren't like this before." "Right. Ethan's magnanimous, much better suited for you." "What's with the sarcasm?" Victoria's brow furrowed tightly. "Do you know what Ethan did today? Because you weren't there, those people kept forcing drinks on me. Ethan, despite his allergy, drank a whole bottle for me." Her tone suggested Ethan had done something incredibly heroic. But this whole mess was Ethan's fault in the first place. Dealing with the fallout was what he should have done. Looking at Victoria's pained and conflicted expression, I knew arguing would only provoke a more defensive response from her. I said nothing more, shook my head, and prepared to go to my room. "Don't go. Make me a cup of honey water and fill the bathtub. I want to take a bath," Victoria commanded, as if it were routine. Previously, I would have taken care of her attentively after she got drunk, without her even asking, even helping her bathe and change into clean, comfortable clothes. But afterward, she often accused me of taking advantage of her while she was drunk. claiming she didn't need my help and could manage perfectly well on her own. Since that was the case, why should I bother meddling? Ignoring her, I went straight to my room. Victoria was furious, but fueled by alcohol, she merely threw a cup heavily in the direction of my door before drifting off into a stupor on the sofa. For the first time, I left her to sleep on the sofa all night. The next morning, the look she gave me was glacial enough to freeze water. I completely ignored it, got ready as usual, and prepared to leave for the office. Things were tense with Victoria, and I knew I should leave the company, but there was still a project my team needed to wrap up. They had worked hard for a week, and the client had finally agreed to discuss the contract. Today was the signing day. I finished dressing and went to the living room. Victoria was applying lipstick in front of the mirror. Her makeup looked similar to usual, yet somehow more elaborate than before. Before I could ponder it, Victoria caught my reflection in the mirror, rolled her eyes, slipped on her high heels, and opened the door without even grabbing her car keys. I was about to remind her, but then I noticed something out the window. Parked next to the car I usually drove to work was a new white Audi. Ethan was half leaning into the car, doing something furtively. Seeing this, I scoffed. So, she had a ride. Ignoring it, I finished getting ready, grabbed my keys, and went downstairs. Only when I got to my car did I realize. The tire was flat. 4. I had just replaced the tires 2 days ago. They shouldn't have failed. And the puncture looked deliberate, almost man-made. Remembering Ethan's sneaky behavior earlier, I instantly understood. No time for cursing, I immediately tried to hail a cab. But this area was somewhat remote. Hailing a cab usually took over 10 minutes. Now during peak morning rush hour, it took me half an hour to find one. I told my team members to stall the client while urging the driver to hurry, but by the time I reached the office, the client had already left. Buddy Sincere, did you forget we were signing the contract today? Why were you so late? Ethan clicked his tongue. What now? You've caused the company a loss. According to regulations, your salary will be docked. His words feigned sympathy, but his lips were practically curled up to his ears in a smirk. A team member couldn't stand it and whispered to me. Sincere, the client wasn't that difficult, actually. I had convinced them to wait longer, but then Ethan went to talk to them. I don't know what he said, but they stormed off angrily. We couldn't stop them. Sorry, Sincere. Hearing the self-blame in his voice, I reassured him briefly. I looked up at Ethan, my expression darkening, and walked towards him. Buddy Sincere, what are you doing? It's not my fault you were late. Why are you looking at me like that? Before he could finish, I grabbed the contract folder and slammed it hard onto his head. Nearly a week of the team's hard work down the drain. If I didn't do something now, I wouldn't be able to respect myself. Ethan clearly hadn't expected me to resort to violence. He froze for a second, then shrieked, Sincere, are you crazy? How dare you hit me? The words barely out, I landed a solid punch directly on his jaw. Yeah, I hit you. So what? Don't like it? Fight back. Ethan screamed and lunged, trying to grab my hair. I kicked him squarely in the stomach, sending him flying backward. I work out regularly. He was frail. In a physical fight, he was no match for me. Ethan shrieked for the onlookers to help. They had been standing around watching the drama, but at his plea, they immediately started bustling about, pretending to be busy. Just then, Victoria heard the commotion and came down from upstairs. Ethan, what happened to you? Seeing Ethan on the ground, she rushed over anxiously and helped him up. Clutching at her like a lifeline, Ethan leaned on Victoria's shoulder. He whimpered pitifully. Vicky, don't blame Buddy Sincere. He was just upset about being late and missing the contract signing. That's why he lost his temper and attacked me here at the company. I'm fine. You should go calm Buddy Sincere down. Hearing this, Victoria's gaze turned even colder as she glared at me. Sincere, you mess up big time, and then you dare assault someone here? Feeling tough, huh? Fine. You won't see a dime of your salary for the next year. It will all go to Ethan as compensation for medical bills and emotional distress. My team members saw this and wanted to speak up for me. I silently stopped them. It doesn't matter. I won't be taking any future salary anyway. I quit. 5. I handed her the resignation letter I had prepared earlier. Surprisingly, Victoria froze for a second. Hesitation flickered in her eyes. Seeing this, Ethan grew anxious, then tearfully added, "Vicky, you can't let Buddy Sincere go. He's your boyfriend after all. But I know company rules state that if employees fight, only one can stay. It's better if I leave. The company will be fine without me anyway." With that, Ethan made a show of leaving. Victoria panicked, quickly grabbing his hand. "Who said it doesn't matter? Anyone can leave, but not you." Saying this, she picked up a pen and, without hesitation, signed my resignation form, then flung it in my face. "Sincere, you're the one choosing to leave. Don't regret this." I scoffed. I wouldn't regret it. I was just about to go pack my things when my lawyer sent a message. The court had accepted the lawsuit application. This meant Victoria would soon receive a court summons. Seeing me pause, Victoria sneered. "What? Regretting it already?" "Let me tell you frankly, the company has resolved the plagiarism issue and is already applying for an IPO. You know what that means. At your age, you won't find a job as good as this anywhere else. It's not too late to change your mind." Hearing this, Ethan immediately pouted aggrievedly at Victoria. Victoria soothed him briefly. "However, you assaulted someone, so you have to compensate Ethan for his medical expenses. And you've humiliated him publicly. You must kneel down before everyone and apologize. When he decides he's no longer angry." Before she could finish, 2 men in suits entered the main door of the company. Victoria's eyes lit up. "I just submitted the IPO application this morning. Are the results back already?" One of the men frowned. "What IPO?" "We're from the court." He then flashed his identification badge. "Are you Victoria Davis? Someone has filed a complaint against your company for improper operations and damaging employee rights. Additionally, another company is suing you for multiple instances of plagiarism, demanding triple damages amounting to $50 million. Chapter 2:6. Victoria stared blankly. She blankly took the summons from the official's hand. Seeing the lawsuit initiated by me, she couldn't help but sneer. "Sincere, you truly are an ingrate. Have you forgotten how you got to where you are today? Without me, you couldn't even afford university. And now, over a little money, you're suing me? You disappoint me deeply." Over the years, whenever we reached an impasse, Victoria would bring up the tuition money to persuade me. Every time, I would feel guilty, concede that I was in the wrong, and back down. I had anticipated she would say the same thing this time. But this time, I felt no guilt. Instead, I produced a statement and handed it to her. "I've repaid the money I owed you back then. This list details the amounts charged to my card by you over the years, the projects handed over to Ethan, and the compensations paid on Ethan's behalf. Victoria, after all these years, after giving so much, compromising so much, and backing down so many times, surely the debt for the tuition fee has been cleared by now?" The projects given to Ethan and the compensations paid for him were each worth nearly $100,000. Compared to those amounts, the tuition fee was a drop in the ocean. Victoria stared at the statement, momentarily speechless. Ethan chimed in from the side. "Even so, Buddy Sincere, you could have talked things over properly with Vicky. Why tear everything apart like this?" His tone was regretful as he understandingly placed a comforting hand on Victoria's shoulder. I was about to speak when Victoria sighed. "Sincere, I never thought you were this kind of person. You just want money, don't you? Fine, I'll give it to you." She immediately called the finance department. $20,000 should be enough, right? Ethan quickly nodded in agreement. Setting aside the fact that this design was never finalized and even caused a lawsuit, even if it had been successfully adopted, that price is inflated. Victoria said nothing, implicitly agreeing with him. I scoffed inwardly. Victoria had intended to use this project and design to promote Ethan. Its value was obvious, but now she was treating me like a beggar. However, I couldn't be bothered to argue with her anymore. Hearing no objection from me, Victoria smiled and addressed the court officials. "We've reached a private settlement. You can leave now." The two officials exchanged glances. Then one said to her, "Besides his claim, there's a summons from another company." Only then did I remember they had indeed mentioned a lawsuit for plagiarism. I was also puzzled by this. Hadn't Victoria said she had resolved the issue and the other party wouldn't pursue it? While I was wondering, Victoria burst out laughing, then shot me a look. "All right, Sincere, you explain it to them. I know you faked this summons, pretending to be from their company just to scare me. Do you know the consequences of filing a malicious lawsuit? The liability is so great that I could use this against you in court. Then the company's losses would be far more than 20,000. She looked at me triumphantly, full of confidence, but I understood then. It seemed the plagiarism incident hadn't been resolved so easily, at least not as simply as she claimed. "I don't know anything about this," I stated truthfully. "Still pretending?" Victoria sneered. "Looks like you won't give up until you're faced with harsh reality." She took the summons regarding the plagiarism from the official's hand, forging signatures, forging company seals. "Sincere, you've got some nerve. Don't you know, with multiple offenses combined, the penalty will be much more than just a fine. I'm calling them right now. You just wait to serve jail time." Saying this, Victoria took out her phone and dialed a number. As she dialed, she kept glancing sideways at me. I knew she was waiting for me to break first and admit fault, but the next second the call connected. When Victoria stated her reason for calling, the response from the other end made her smiling face instantly freeze. 7. "Miss Davis, regarding this matter, please contact our legal department," the voice on the other end said coldly. So the lawsuit she held was real. The other party was genuinely demanding compensation, $50 million. Even for a company applying for an IPO, this was a huge sum for Victoria. Victoria panicked. "But you clearly said that day that we had reached an agreement and wouldn't pursue the matter of this design anymore. We are not pursuing this specific instance. We are pursuing past incidents. Now, my time is very valuable. If you have any issues, contact our legal department. Do not disturb me again." With that, before Victoria could respond, the person hung up. Anxious, Victoria tried dialing again. I clearly saw Ethan's eyes dart around unnaturally, as if he had a guilty conscience. Understanding dawned on me. Victoria dialed several more times, but the calls went unanswered. Finally, the line went dead, indicating she'd been blocked or the call directly rejected. Furious, she slammed her phone hard onto the floor. Seeing this, the court officials didn't linger. Confirming the message had been delivered, they left promptly. I followed them, preparing to leave as well. Before going, looking at the distraught Victoria, I couldn't help but say, "They said they're pursuing past incidents. Instead of freaking out, you'd be better off investigating properly, figuring out how to apologize to them, and seeking forgiveness." I had witnessed the company's journey step by step. I didn't care much about Victoria herself anymore, but I hoped the company's reputation could at least be somewhat preserved. Victoria froze for a moment, then suddenly rushed after me. She grabbed my arm tightly. "Sincere, you handle this. You've dealt with similar situations before. I trust your experience. You can definitely win this case." Design firms inevitably encounter such issues. When the company was newly founded and growing rapidly, envious competitors often spread slander. Because of this, in the early days, besides my regular duties, I also had to act as the company's legal counsel, handling these defamatory claims. Thinking about this, I couldn't help but recall her earlier threat about me facing jail time. Another wave of coldness washed over me. "Sorry, I'm no longer an employee here. Find someone else more capable. I can hire you for more money. Besides, Sincere, you're my boyfriend. You can't just stand by and do nothing at a time like this." She gripped my wrist tightly as she spoke. I found it even more ironic. Boyfriend. When had she ever treated me like a boyfriend? "Sorry, we've already broken up." I let out a bitter laugh and pried her fingers off one by one. "I'm powerless to help. You can ask your considerate subordinate to handle it." Then, without further ado, I walked straight out the door. Walking out of the company building, it slowly dawned on me. The company was applying for an IPO. Faced with such a crisis, Victoria could easily find a top-notch legal team. Knowing how proud she was, why would she humble herself and beg me? Unless she knew the case was unwinnable. Sure enough, a few days later at the court hearing, the opposing party presented evidence that left Victoria utterly speechless. Her lawyer barely managed a few words before the opposition countered, as if striking a fatal blow, releasing wave after wave of even stronger evidence. The trial nearly broke Victoria. In the end, the court ruled in favor of the plaintiff, ordering Victoria to pay $50 million in compensation. "Vicky, it's okay, this is just a small setback." Ethan, the instigator of the whole affair, tried to console Victoria, but before he could finish, Victoria slapped him hard across the face. "8.
Small setback?
Look what you've done. Do you know what this $50 million means for the company?" Losing all composure, she yelled at Ethan publicly in a fit of rage. Seeing this unfold on television, I felt somewhat surprised. Previously, she had always treated Ethan like a precious gem, coddling him excessively. This seemed to be the first time Victoria had ever lost her temper so severely with Ethan. It appeared the incident had hit her hard, but it was no longer my concern. After resting for a couple of days, I sent my resume to companies I admired and soon received a response. The company was flatteringly eager, immediately offering mutually agreeable terms. I accepted the position smoothly and moved to an apartment near the new office, throwing myself into work and familiarizing myself with the new company. My life and career slowly got back on track before long. Then one night, Victoria suddenly showed up at my place. We hadn't seen each other for some time. She looked much more haggard than before. Heavy dark circles under her eyes couldn't be concealed by makeup, and her usually meticulously cared for hair looked somewhat frizzy. Rumor had it that after the trial, the IPO plans were scrapped. After paying the compensation, even the company's normal cash flow was affected. It seemed she had been worrying herself sick over it. "What are you doing here?" I didn't know her intentions, but I could sense her despondency, and my attitude softened slightly. After all, if she tried something drastic after our conversation, it would still be trouble for me. Victoria's eyes instantly reddened. "Only after you left did I realize how empty the apartment feels. I just can't get used to it. I haven't slept properly in ages. Every time I close my eyes, I think of you. Every day I want to see you. We were together for 9 years. I realized that from start to finish I can't live without you." Saying this, she tried to grab my hand. I pulled away without hesitation, finding it laughable. The property manager in my old complex was friendly with me. The day after I moved out, he told me Ethan had moved into Victoria's apartment. He didn't know Victoria and I had broken up and thought she had wronged me. With Ethan around, Victoria missed me? She could say it, but I wouldn't believe it. "Then that's just your regret. Because I sleep better here than before, and I live more comfortably too," I said calmly. In fact, not long after Ethan appeared, Victoria rarely interacted with me anymore. Even living in the same apartment, we barely spoke. So moving out promptly caused me no discomfort whatsoever. Victoria looked visibly disappointed. "We were together for 9 years. Can you really be that cold-blooded, not feeling any reluctance at all? Sincere, I was wrong before. I admitted to you I was wrong. I don't even know what I was thinking back then. But I never wanted to break up with you or make you leave. Please forgive me this once, okay? I promise I'll change in the future." Large tears rolled down her cheeks, a sight to evoke pity. I couldn't stand seeing her cry. If this were before, perhaps my heart would have softened. But now, knowing her true nature, I only thought she was a good actress, wasted potential outside of show business. Tired of playing games with her, I cut straight to the point. "Victoria, I know what's been going on between you and Ethan recently, so I don't believe you'd come running back to get together with me. I suspect you don't even want to get back together yourself. So why are you really here? Just say it." Victoria's smile froze slightly. "I'm serious." "Then what about Ethan?" I interrupted her. "Think carefully before you answer. I'm recording this, and I'll send everything you say straight to him." 9. I held up my phone, showing her the recording interface. Apparently not expecting this, Victoria's face turned shades of pale and green. She stared at me fixedly, seemingly unwilling to accept it. After hesitating for 2 minutes, perhaps realizing there was no point in pretending anymore, she sighed. "Come back. The company can't function without you. Name your terms, anything you want, as long as I can provide it." I scoffed. "All right then, give me the company." Victoria frowned. "That's impossible, then sorry, find someone else." I waved dismissively. Victoria's face flushed red with frustration. "No matter what, you founded this company too. It was the first successful thing you did after graduation, like your first child. Can you really bear to abandon it?" I turned back and looked at her seriously. She was right. I had stayed by her side right after graduation, helping her build the company step by step. Using her past help as leverage, she made me work for free. Using our relationship as a reason for me to cherish her, she took all the shares. Fueled by emotion and passion, I accompanied her this far. Now my heart had grown cold, my passion cooled. If the first child is gone, there can be a second, a third. Dwelling on the past is useless. People's eyes look forward, and their feet must move forward too. You should go back too. Don't come here again, whether you have something to discuss or not. Wasting no more time on her, I turned and went back to my room. The door was kicked hard twice. Victoria seemed unable to hold back any longer, and yelled furiously through the door, "Sincere, I should never have helped an ingrate like you then." The sound of footsteps faded away. Leaning against the door, I couldn't deny that she had disturbed my peace of mind. My emotions were complex, hard to define. Even though I kept telling myself I had repaid Victoria's kindness over the years, the incident remained like a thorn lodged firmly in my heart. Victoria was right. If she hadn't helped me back then, I wouldn't be where I am today. This sense of guilt was pervasive. Like an invisible wind, it could wrap tightly around me at any moment. After this meeting, I knew Victoria wouldn't give up easily. Sure enough, the next day she posted a vaguely worded status update on her public account. In the comments, someone mentioned my name, adding fuel to the fire, talking about how Victoria helped me and how I acted like an ungrateful ingrate. The post attracted a wave of traffic. Predictably, over the next few days, I overheard people at my new company pointing fingers and whispering about me. Even my boss started looking at me strangely. I knew Victoria staged this drama hoping I'd lose my job, forcing me to bow my head and accept her terms. The feeling of despair washed over me again, like drowning. I went to the company rooftop to contemplate my situation, chain-smoking 3 cigarettes. Finally, I threw the butt onto the ground and crushed it with my foot. If I backed down again, Victoria would keep pushing. Since she wanted a war this time, I would fight her to the end. Just as I was about to go downstairs to draft a clarifying statement, my former university roommate, David Jones, contacted me. "Weren't you and Victoria doing well? How did things get this bad?" His voice was full of surprise. I sighed helplessly. I told him everything that had happened recently. After learning the whole story, David became agitated. "Then why aren't you fighting back? Why are you letting her slander you like this?" I was about to explain, but he suddenly interjected. "By the way, Victoria didn't pay your tuition fee back then." 10. It was your dad. He came to the university to see you, heard you lost the money, and asked me to help cover it for you. But he was afraid you'd feel burdened, so he asked me to tell a white lie for your sake. I was supposed to give the money to you directly, but I had an emergency that day, so I asked Victoria to pass it along. I stood there, stunned, as if struck by lightning. Back then, my family was so poor. How could my dad possibly come up with another sum for tuition? I double-checked with David multiple times, and he insisted he remembered correctly. I was wondering myself how the story changed to Victoria paying for it, he added. After hanging up, I immediately called my dad, George Clark. Years had passed, and our family wasn't struggling as much, but I was often busy with work late into the night and rarely had time to call home. He sounded surprised to hear from me. "Not busy with work today?" His tone was casual, but I could still detect the underlying joy. My heart ached. I didn't tell him about the situation with Victoria, but eagerly asked about the tuition fee incident. Someone told me that you were the one who covered my tuition again back then. Is that true? My dad was silent for a moment, then sighed. Damn it, I worked hard for that tuition money, and you lost it. I almost didn't want you to go to university anymore, but seeing you crying like a lost puppy, I figured, forget it, everyone makes mistakes. That money. Just as I was about to ask where it came from, I suddenly remembered something. After that incident, when I went home, there were several unexplained needle marks on my dad's arm. He claimed it was from getting IV fluids for a cold, but thinking back now, he had always been robust and rarely got sick. Even when unwell, he would tough it out, unwilling to spend money even on an injection, let alone IV fluids. Conversely, it was only after that period that his health seemed to decline, and he started getting sick often. All right, stop asking. It's all in the past.
By the way, how are things between you and Victoria?
When are you planning to get married? My dad's tone softened. He had actually never met Victoria. In our 9 years together, whenever I suggested taking her home, she always found excuses. Thinking back now, it was clearly because she had a guilty conscience. Victoria and I broke up. Don't worry, Dad, I'll definitely find you a better daughter-in-law. After hanging up, I didn't hesitate any longer. I posted all the evidence, online proof of everything I had done for her over the years, exposing her lies, including the truth about the tuition fee. Unlike Victoria's false claims, my evidence was solid and could withstand scrutiny. David Jones and former colleagues also posted messages supporting me. Victoria, who likely expected me to retreat again and again, clearly never imagined I would fight back this time, let alone discover the truth about the tuition fee. Less than half an hour later, she quickly deleted her posts. Seeing this, online spectators immediately discerned the truth. Those who had initially supported her instantly switched sides, turning to curse her. Some extreme netizens even sent funeral wreaths and splashed paint on her company building. My colleagues' gazes were now filled with sympathy, and even my boss's attitude towards me softened. It made sense. Exploited for years, working myself to the bone for a piece of candy, only to discover, in the end, that even the candy was fake. That was indeed something worth breaking down over. I didn't dwell on it too much, nor did my passion get extinguished. I continued to work hard, contemplating that I had been too busy over the years.
It was time to bring my dad here and move our home to this city. My dad was right.
What's past is past. Life had to go on. 11. Perhaps knowing she was in the wrong, Victoria didn't contact me again after that incident. Unexpectedly, however, one day Ethan Miller suddenly sent me 2 pictures. One was his marriage certificate with Victoria. The other was a contract worth tens of millions in profit, with Victoria's company listed as the second party. Seeing the marriage certificate, I felt calm. I had long anticipated this day would come. It was the contract that surprised me somewhat. Didn't expect this, did you, Sincere? You personally pushed Vicky into my arms. Don't you regret it? Don't think Vicky and the company can't survive without you. I'm better than you, studied abroad, leagues ahead of you. A temporary setback will only make us stronger. Just you wait. Soon, I'll drive you out of this industry and get revenge for Vicky. Looking at the childishly boastful messages, I unhesitatingly blocked and deleted him. What bad luck. I thought they might try to sabotage me further, but unexpectedly, half a month later, I received news. Victoria's company had declared bankruptcy, deeply indebted to the bank. All assets under the companies in her name were frozen. According to insiders, the lucrative contract was actually a trap. Ethan hadn't recognized it. Victoria, having been down for so long, suddenly received an investment opportunity brought in by Ethan. Overjoyed and blinded, she naturally missed the red flags too. In the end, they fell into the trap. Unable to repay the massive debt, the company was auctioned off by the court. Shortly after, word spread that Ethan was demanding a divorce from Victoria. She refused vehemently, and the dispute ended up in court. During the proceedings, Ethan publicly assaulted her. Later, Late one night, Victoria turned on the gas. The entire city saw the piercing flames of the massive fire. By then, I had used my recent salary and bonuses to buy a small apartment and had brought my father to live with me. Some people die, and they are truly gone, while others continue to live on brightly. End.